Good evening, everyone. I'm Sahil Thorpe, and I'm a commissioning editor with Oxford University Press India. And I welcome you all on behalf of Oxford University Press India. Today's session has been especially curated for students who are aspiring to crack the UPSC Civil Services exam. The session today is going to be delivered by our expert, Mr. Syed Waqar Raza, who is an IPS officer from the West Bengal cadre. Presently, sir is associated with the Kolkata Police as a Joint Commissioner of Police, and he'll be taking us through today's session. Welcome, sir. Welcome on board. So, sir will take us through the session, and towards the end of the session, sir will also answer a lot of questions which the students have put up. We have received a lot of questions for sir, and sir will be answering almost all the questions for the aspirants. And we'll start the session now. So with regards to internal security and disaster management, recently you have authored a book on the same subject area. And could you please let us know that students have been asking a lot about linkages between development and spread of extremism. And this question is time and again asked in the exam. So could you please shed some light on this particular topic? What all has been covered in the book? I think there is some connection lag. Sir, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear. In this book, we have divided the book into 18 chapters, and the first 16 chapters are for internal security, and the rest 2 chapters are disaster management. In the first 16 chapters, we have discussed how development is how underdevelopment is linked to extremism, and how underdevelopment causes extremism, as well as how extremism also leads to underdevelopment. So this linkage has been discussed in the 3 theaters of extremism in India, like Jammu and Kashmir, Maoist extremism, and also the Northeast. Then we have gone on to discuss the role of state and non-state actors, terrorism, and China's role, Pakistan's role, and so on, various terrorist organizations, both within India and outside India, and so on. And then we go on to discuss the challenges through social media and media and social media. We also have a detailed discussion on cybersecurity. Thereafter, we go on to discuss money laundering. There's a chapter on that. Then we go on to discuss the security challenges in the border areas, in the land borders with other countries that India has. We discuss each of these borders and the associated problems, the efforts that government has taken. And then we go on to discuss coastal and airspace security also. There's a chapter on organized crime and its linkage with terrorism. There is a chapter on security forces and security agencies. There's also a chapter on AFSPA, because there have been questions in the last on AFSPA. I've also included the discussion on the recent Government of India's thrust on defense production and exports. And then there is a chapter, there is a topic of CDS, that is the Chief of Defense Staff, that also have included. You'll be surprised to know that even the Pegasus issue has been covered in the cybercrime chapter. And the communalism is another chapter, and mob violence. India's nuclear doctrine is another chapter. And after that, we go on to the COVID and non-traditional security challenges, friends. And the last 2 chapters deal with disaster management, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 basically deals with the various kinds of disasters in India, its mitigation and prevention strategies, and so on. And part 2 deals with the government's institutional framework in terms of policies, in terms of plans, acts, both at the national, international, and the regional and state levels. That's it, Sahil.
Right, sir. Sir, apart from that, while I was going through the book, I found a very interesting aspect that there are some QR codes inside each chapter. So could you please tell the aspirants about that? What all can they see once they scan a QR code which is linked with each chapter?
So in fact, there are two QR codes with each chapter. The one on the beginning, in the beginning of the chapter, that QR code, if the aspirant scans it with the QR code scanner through the mobile, it will take it to the Oxford University Press's website, and there are 7 to 8 minutes video detailing the brief about that chapter. I've taken pains to develop all these videos, and then by seeing the video, the student will get an overview of what all is to come in this chapter. So it's just an introduction and a conceptual video for that chapter. Coming to the second part, Sahil, the last year's question papers have been solved and the solutions have been provided. The mains question papers have been solved and the solutions have been provided in towards the end of the chapter. Just after the questions have been mentioned, there is a small QR code, and if you scan that, you can see the answers that I have framed to those questions.
Right, sir. So I'm pretty sure that aspirants will find this particular aspect very helpful. This feature is going to be extremely useful for all the aspirants. So moving on, sir, a lot of aspirants had asked questions with regard to this subject area as well as the exam in general. So the very first set of questions that we received was how one can start preparation for the UPSC exam after completing class 12th, and a similar question on how one can prepare for the very first attempt, and what should be the self-study strategy for the 2022 exam, and what kind of steps should a first timer first time exam test taker should take for the cracking the exam.
Sahil, all answers to all these questions are more or less similar. So these questions have been bunched together, I believe, and I'll only advise the aspirants that it's a very it's the UPSC journey is a journey worth taking, and if you follow the right strategy, I'm sure you will get through it. So it's a journey which will immensely increase your knowledge and your confidence, and it's advisable to give it a best shot. So first you have to see your NCERT books like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. All these classes NCERT book you must be going through, at least the history, geography, economics, polity, and so on. From the science part, you have for the science subjects you can go up to, but for the rest of the things you can. I think 11th and 12th also is advisable. And then once you are done with the NCERT, you have to read once, or rather parallelly you have to go on with, because these days the exams are quite current based. So one or two national newspapers have to be studied or read daily. Even then, you have to ensure that you do not, you are focused while reading the paper. You need not read the political news so much, or even the news related to crime and so on. But rather, you should focus on what are the things covered in the syllabus, and what are the things that are going on. What is it that is relevant to the UPSC paper? So I think you should spend 1 to 1.5 hours per day on newspaper. So that kind of time. Then again, there are so many magazines for current affairs, very good e-magazines and magazines. Some of these magazines have to be studied. And there are other websites like Press Information Bureau and PRS India and so on, which are also good sources of information. In case the candidate does not have the time to go through all these magazines, they can go through these magazines rather than going to websites of PIB and all. But those are also very good sources. Apart from that, friends, I will advise that you must always follow standard textbooks. Those textbooks which the names you have read in magazines and from toppers and all. So these are the standard textbooks, and the advantage in reading standard textbooks is that you get a conceptual idea. By referring to small notes or some guides, you will not get a very deep idea. So rather, I'll advise that you go through the standard textbooks of each subject. Friends, I will also advise that you have to complete your main syllabus once before you attempt the prelims, because there is very small time between the prelims exam and the mains exam. So you must, and while I say you must complete the mains syllabus, I'm sure that will also cover a large part of the prelims also, or probably the whole of prelims also. So you must ensure that you cover the main syllabus, both the optionals and the GS paper before you actually appear for the prelims for the first time. So at least one or two readings you must you must make, and you can make notes for your optionals and so on. You should always study, friends, with a view to revise anything which you study and you have not made notes or you have not underlined, that the next time it will take equally long for you to understand, and probably the time you have read for the first time, it will go wasted. So whenever you study, you always underline, or you make small notes, or you make conceptual notes, whatever you do, but make sure that the next time when you have to study that, you require less time for that. For example, in our book, what I have done, friends, is that I have for every for every page I have underlined or I have highlighted the keywords. So what happens is, when you read for the first time, you know that these are the important keywords, and then and then at the end of the chapter there is also a quick reason section. So the whole gist of the chapter will be contained in those 1 or 2 pages. And so while revising, you can just flip the pages and see what are the keywords, and then you can go on to the revision section, and there you can revise it very fast. So this is not only for internal security, but for any other subject, friends. Your aim while studying should be to enable you to revise faster. Anything that you study and you have not made sure, or you have not made your efforts to revise faster, after 2 or 3 months, you will forget everything of that. So please make sure that you underline, you highlight, you make small notes, so that the next time when you, even if this time it takes a slightly more, maybe it will take 1 hour, but the next time it will save one hour or 2 hours. So that is one thing. Then again, as I said, you can join a test series for prelims or mains. What the test series does is it keeps you focused, it gives you small targets and goals, and you can stick to these goals. It keeps you away from distractions and so on. So these are the few points that I want to share with you, friends.
Thank you so much, sir. The next question is around how one can deal with distraction during studies, and how one can study consistently. Also, how can one stay motivated throughout the preparation journey?
Friends, the most important thing is that you are the master of your destiny, and you have to set your priorities correctly in your life. You know that you waste 2 3 years, and then the whole life you have to work hard. Not that I do not have to work hard. Each of one in service or out, all of us are working hard. But then you must put your best efforts to in the goal that you have chosen. It's your choice. You have chosen to be to opt for civil service exams, and therefore you should be committed towards that. It cannot be a half-hearted effort, because there are thousands of people who are putting their best efforts, and therefore to get through, you have to put your best effort. There should absolutely be no doubt about that in your mind. So once you are committed from your side, please give it your best effort. You should, and let me add, friends, the mantra, or the key to success in either in civil services or in any aspect of life. Today I'm an officer, even I have to do the same thing. I have to the ability to minimize distraction and focusing on your goal. This is the key to success. You will always have distractions in your life, whether in professional or in as a student. You'll always have distractions. Something or the other will distract you. But you must always remember that what is my key goal, and how I can minimize my distraction, how I can make my environment free of distractions, and then how I can focus on my goal. Even if your daily achievement may not be very big, but the fact that you are sticking to your goal for long periods of time, for months together, for years together, that is the one factor which will create a big difference at the end of the day, at the end of the in the long run, friends. So that is one thing. And the third thing is that you have to just to make sure that you have good time management. You have to plan your days. You cannot you cannot be unplanned while studying. You have to plan in terms of, like, for the next 3 months, this is my plan. You have to also plan your weeks, and you plan your days to the hour. So even if you waste some time, for example, some distraction is there, somebody has dropped in, some friend has called, that part of the day will be wasted. But for the rest part, you'll again be back on the track. So that is one thing. Of course, you have to take scheduled breaks in between. There will be some this way or that way. But my point is, even if you can stick to 80% of your schedule, it will do you immense good. So do try to make routines for the day and stick to it. And my suggestion will be that, sometimes you have in mind that this is a very difficult topic, or this is a topic which will, you attack those topics first. First, try to finish those topics which are very difficult, because it will give you immense confidence once you are done with that. So you maybe in the earlier part of the day, or while you prepare, you start with the slightly difficult things, so that they are not left for the end. because in the end you will have the pressure of revision, you will have the pressure of exams, and so on. So try to study the difficult things at the first go itself, and then you know what happens sometimes. We have our own good days and bad days. So we are all very fine on good days. We will our productivity increases. We study for long hours on good days, but you know it's sometimes we have our bad days. We don't feel good. We feel that nothing is going well in my life. We feel that I don't know if I will get through the exam or not, how my PT will go with. And you know friends, to be honest, it has happened with me, it has happened with everybody else, and it will happen with you. Just make sure that you give your basic minimum on your lows also. Your good days will be good in any case, but the bad days you have to take care. Make sure that you stick to your schedule even if you study slightly less on those days. But the idea is not to give up. The idea is to keep struggling, and the idea is to maintain a basic minimum even on those days in which you are not feeling motivated, to the extent that sometimes it will be mechanical, but then you have to do it. That is one thing, friends. Let me narrate a small incident which happened with me. While I appeared in my mains for three. I had appeared for 3 times, and you know, in 3 times at that time there were 2 attempts. There were 2 subjects, 2 optional subjects. So I used to score. My options were geography and maths, and I used to score consistently very low marks in maths. So for 3 attempts, I could not get through the whole. I appeared for prelims and interview, but for mains and interview, but finally I could not. So on the last attempt, in the last attempt, I got time to prepare, because in any case there was only 1 day's gap between geography and maths, so I could not revise maths. And this time, in the last attempt, I put my best effort. I practiced everything. I did immense amount of practice in maths and other subjects. So everything was fine. But just on the day on which the geography exam was over and the next exam was my last exam of maths, I got ill, and I got ill very badly. I got ill. I had 102 and 103 fever, viral fever. I was in such a weak state that I could not even drink or eat properly. And if I ate anything, I would vomit. And then I had to myself go. Nobody was there. I was staying alone in a hostel, and I had to go and get the get the IV drips myself, and then come back again in the home, and then or in the hostel, and then keep studying. Study I could not do, but then in the night, tomorrow is the maths exam. So 3 days I could not study. I was bedridden with medicines and all. So in the night, I thought that now it cannot be possible. I will not be selected. It is just not possible that in maths already that 15 days, 20 days had gone because of prelims and so on. I could not study, and when maths is such an optional that you know you tend to forget things very fast. So in the night, I thought that I know that I'll not get through. Fair enough. Maybe God doesn't want me to become an officer. So with these thoughts, I slept early. I had given up. I had given up actually. Mentally speaking, honestly speaking, I had given up, and I slept early. In the morning when I woke up, I thought, "Hoga to nahi." But if I don't go, then maybe the whole life I'll blame myself that I did not go. In any case, if it is not to be there, if I go and attempt, I don't know. At least I'll not blame myself. So, friends, with that, only with that amount of, with that in my mind, I went to the exam. I appeared in the exam, maths, and after 3 hours when I came after giving paper one, I was it was almost very, it was quite reasonable. I'll not say it's very good, but I thought I'm now back. Now I had more of tension because you know earlier I was thinking I was out of the race. Now suddenly I'm into the race. So for the next 2 hours I revised something, and then again I appeared in the paper. I was very happy that you know I'm back in the race. I don't know if I'll make it through or not, but at least I'm back in the race. And lo and behold, after some time the results came and I cleared the means, and then again finally I got selected. And today I'm sitting here advising you how to prepare. Friends, there are two things to learn. Number one, never lose hope in life. Always be positive in life. You are the one selected. Your own efforts will take you through long distances. Please have trust in yourself. And number two, even if the chips are down, even if sometimes you are feeling nothing is going well, like I felt that nothing is working. It's my last attempt, last paper, and I have gotten ill. Even if that is the case, please appear. Please show up. Please put your best effort and leave the rest. Rest will take care of it. So don't give up without fighting. If you have to give up, please fight and then give up. I hope I make sense. Friends, with all this, do not lose focus on your health. Your health is important. Maybe half an hour of walk each day will not do much of harm. And of course, very importantly, social media, you should be very, very focused. I know these days you cannot prepare without a little bit of social media. Lot of notes and all material comes on social media, but then it should be limited only to your preparations, to your. It should not be that you're wasting a lot of time on social media, unnecessary videos, unnecessary memes, etc. So you should slightly be very careful regarding. I'll not say no, but then you should be very possessive of your time as regards social media.
That was a very motivational story, sir. And moving forward to the next question. So a lot of aspirants are asking, sir, how can they prepare for this exam while they're working or while they're in a job? So would you please provide some tips for that?
Friends, any number of students in the UPSC exam, they have worked and they have gone through the exam and then they have cleared the exam. So it is a very doable thing, I'll say. It's not that to clear the exam you must have to quit the job or something like this. It's not like that. Just that you have to be slightly you have to say focus on 5 to 6 hours of daily regular study. If you can carve out 5 to 6 hours of study from your schedule, because in any case you will work for 7 8 or maybe 9 hours, you'll sleep for 7 8 hours, you still have at least 5 6 hours in your hand. It is this time that you utilize which will make the difference in your life. While writing this book, internal security, I too had to work on weekends. I too had to write on weekends. Maybe sometimes I have to sleep less in the night and then complete the chapters and so on. So the result is in my hand here. So the point friend here is that it's very doable, and you have to focus on at least studying for 5 6 hours per day. And even other candidates who are not working, they also are studying only maybe 8 or 9 hours of serious study. So you are not too far away from them, and that you can make up with smart strategy. And you have to you have your weekends to make up, and so on. But the point is that it should be focused study. 5 to 6 hours. It cannot be that you cannot miss Monday. You have to be very religious because already you have less time, and then if you waste, or if you are not very religious or very disciplined in those 6 or 5 hours, then it will be difficult. But then it is very possible, and you have to be focused for studies for 5 6 hours. And if possible, you can take some leave before prelims and mains, because say last 1 month or 15 days, because that is the time in which you will have to revise lots. You will have to be in the mode for exam. So if possible, if you can take some time leave just before prelims and mains, it would be great.
So the next question is about answer writing. So students are asking on how to develop skills for UPSC mains answer writing, and how can one answer have a perfect answer for GS and optional.
Perfection is a difficult word, Sahil. But then yes, I will share certain tips for writing good answers. First and foremost, friends, knowledge of the subject is a sine qua non. You cannot write good answers unless you have a good knowledge of the subject, good knowledge, good background knowledge, as well as good current knowledge of the subject. So you have to have both of these. For these, you have to refer to the standard textbooks, and you have to refer to the current affairs materials. And then you have to, friends, it is very important that you must complete the chapter. You must complete the question paper. In the quest to write perfect answers, if you miss on 2 3 answers, then you are virtually out of the list. So you have to make sure that you write fast. But when you write fast, I'll say that you write legibly. It should not be that you scribble and you write in bad. I'm not saying again that you have to write in very fancy handwriting, but then your paper should be good to look at, pleasing to look at. So it is your first impression of the paper that the examiner will be giving lots of marks to you. And to make his job easy, the more you make his job easy, the more marks you get. So if you can write nicely, if you can write clearly and legibly, and if you can underline keywords, important keywords for him, so the examiner, just by looking at the paper in 1 or 2 seconds, he can see that okay, you have mentioned these 4 5 keywords which are important. So he will know that okay, you know the subject. And do not cut too much, do not overwrite. So far as practicable, make it a very clean and neat paper. Your impression of the paper just by seeing is very important. And then I will say that if possible, supplement it by flowcharts, maps, and diagrams. And then to understand all the, and revision of course is very important, because you will only be able to write good answers if you have those things in your mind. And for having things in your mind, you have to revise the topics. And then the last thing that I'll say is practice. You'll have to practice the questions. You'll have to join maybe test series. In our book on internal security, you can write the answers and check with the QR code what are the points that is covered in the model answer. Maybe the model answer is slightly longer because I have covered the most of the points, but then you may have missed on one or two important points. You can check. So you have to practice writing within those time limits and within those word limits, and then you have to improve on that. You have to practice. Hopefully, it will be better.
Right, sir. The next question is about how can one develop their personality according to their dream service, that is IPS? Should one do it from preparation time or even before that?
Friends, I'll say that this is a very clear-cut examination of 3 stage, and I think it is important for you to focus on the 3 stages of examination rather than focusing on the personality itself. You should focus on how to clear the prelims, how to clear the mains, and how to clear the interview. I think you should be solely focused on these things, and there are some personality traits which I will say, which you must develop for you to be a good civil servant, you to be able to clear the exams. For instance, as I said, you should focus on the goals on the exams, prelims, mains, interview. You should focus on your goal, work hard and work smart. Your time management should be good, and all these things will help you in preparing your own subject, prelims, mains, and interview. Then you should have an unbiased perspective in life. You should not be biased too much. You should be neutral in your perspective towards various communities, faiths, religions, customs, tribes. Your perspective should not be biased towards any of these, towards or against any of these. You should have a neutral perspective of an administrator, and then you should always have a positive attitude. That is very important in life. You should have the ability to understand concepts and situations. That okay, if this is a situation, what you should do. It will come gradually. You can try. It will come gradually, and then you should have the ability to communicate things. Like for instance, in mains, what you write is actually written communication. So your ideas and how you can crisply and very concisely write your ideas is very important. And then at the interview stage, friends, you can always seek guidance from your seniors and some mock interviews and friends to see what are the shortcomings in your personality or what are the rough edges in your personality, and you can always improve on that. But then my point is that do not worry too much about that, but rather focus on your prelims mains strategy, and rest will take care. Let me, friends, take here a minute to see to show you an image. Sahil, if I can have the next slide, please. Friends, this image is of a rough marble, and this is if you enter the National Police Academy. I'm telling the student who asked this question to my friend. If you enter the National Police Academy, you will find after going some about 100-200 meters, you will find this. It's not the exact image. It's a similar image. A similar big block of marble is kept there, and it's very rough, like you can see here. So and below it, on black marble, this thing is written. Sir, if you could just click. Michelangelo was once asked, how do you produce statues that are so full of life? The rough marble already contains the statues, Michelangelo said. It's just a matter of extracting them. There's already a fine officer in you. Help us chisel it out. NPA is telling its students, its trainees, that there's already a very good officer inside you. Please help us to chisel it out. So do not worry about your personality. Your personality is good enough. Focus on the things, and as it is, when you go to NPA, they will make your personality even better. So focus on the prelims, mains.
That was some really good advice, sir. The next question is with regard to the internal security as a subject. How can one write answers for internal security questions?
Friends, internal security answers are no different from other answers. You have to, of course, but then there is one difference in the sense that the questions there in internal security, they are very specific. For example, if they will not ask about general problems on the borders, they will ask about specific. You tell about the problems on the Indo-Myanmar border. Now, unless and until you know specifically these are the problems at Indo-Myanmar border, you will not be able to answer the question to the examiner's satisfaction. If they ask you what is the role of landslide hazard zonation in the mitigation of landslide hazard, so unless you know specifically about landslides, and unless you know specifically about landslide hazard zonation, you will not be able to answer. So the point here is that you have to be very specific in your knowledge, and you have to go slightly. You have to have slightly detailed knowledge of the topic, and then of course it has to be supplemented with current affairs, because many times you will see they will be asking questions which are recently in news. So of course current has to be there, And then thirdly is when you have studied a chapter, see the previous year's questions, practice the writing those for maybe 1 or 2 questions, and check how you have written, what points you have missed. So practice is very important. You have to write within the time limit, within the word limit. So you have to practice, and then of course write legibly and neatly, underline keywords, and supplement with maps, charts, and diagrams. So these are the 4 or 5 tips that I can give, friends.
Right, sir. The next question is that what sources should be referred for the preparation of internal security and disaster management?
Friends, I can refer to my book, Internal Security and Disaster Management. There are 18 chapters, and I have written with a view that if you read the book, I have my aim while writing the book was that the student should not have to go to any other. He should not have to go from one source to the other, one source to understand the concept of this part, and another source for that part. That should not be the case. It should be my aim. My challenge was to write a one-stop solution which gives you a detailed insight into the paper, into the syllabus of internal security and disaster management, and it should be sufficient to answer at least the previously asked questions. So that much effort I have made. Now, of course, you have to supplement it with current affairs and supplement it with the recent developments. But for the traditional part of internal security and disaster management, and even for up to whatever has been asked so far, I think it is sufficient. And I've also anticipated that okay, this could be asked, so I will include those topics. Yes, I.
So the syllabus of internal security of India, as it mentioned in the prelims, but many questions from internal security are asked in the prelims. Could you tell us what are the reason for that?
The reasons, as you have seen, Sahil, is that internal security is very current based. A lot of questions are asked that are, for example, many a times you'll see those things are already in news. So a lot of current based questions are asked in internal security. Then there are science and tech portions. For example, there are portions on artificial intelligence. There are, or rather, in science and tech, there are other portions on cyber security and all. There are portions on viruses, on ballistic missile defense program of India. So all these are related to science and technology, and a lot of it is on the intersection of science and technology and internal security. So naturally, these questions, when they come, you do not know to categorize them in internal security or in science and tech. Again, Sahil, some of the topics, some of the new policies, guidelines, and related laws. For example, if there is a question on UAPA, now that UAPA question will already be covered in Indian polity and governance section. So, or for example, if there is an amendment, if there is a new law or a new amendment or a new draft guidelines, so these topics are as such part of the Indian polity and governance in prelims. Right. So for that reason, these questions also add on to the thing. And then in prelims there are other topics like poverty, unemployment, and so on. So these all things have a bearing on the internal security. For example, in a poor area or in an underdeveloped area, Maoist extremism will grow. So because of these linkages of internal security with these topics of poverty, science and tech, because of these linkages, you will find there are so many questions which are which though not mentioned in prelims, but still they are asked in prelims.
Yes, sir. So it is at the crossroads of various subjects.
Yes, sir. And plus current.
Yes, sir. The next question is, sir, how much disaster preparedness is essential for controlling the urban floods?
Sahil, I have mentioned this in my book on page. Urban floods. There is a separate. There is a topic on floods. Again, there is a separate topic on urban floods, 17.4.6, and in that, I have mentioned the mitigation and preparedness strategies in 17.4.6.3 of the book here. And I have jotted on a few points like 24/7 weather monitoring, then automatic rain gauge stations, installation of then land use planning. There are areas in which the people should know that okay, this area has so much amount of the water logging will be so much. So when they make building plans, they should be keeping in mind the earlier rain flood hazard in those areas. Then again, of course, there are in the cities there are storm drainage systems. Sahil. A storm drainage system is a big drain which drains out the bulk of the water when very high rainfall takes place. So these storm drainage systems have to be made functional. At times their siltation gets on. At times they are choked, for which reason urban floods occur. So storm drainage system has to be made functional, made better. Then again, the new constructions like metro stations, like new buildings, roads, these are sometimes made in a way that it obstructs the flow of water and the seepage into the ground. So we have to go for rainwater harvesting. We have to go for flood-proof design of these new constructions. Then again, we have to go for urban encroachment removal, because many a time urban encroachment, these impede the flow of water, these impede the recharge of groundwater. So they have to be removed and regulated, so that our groundwater flow and our groundwater recharge is not affected. Then again, friends, we have to discourage the use of plastics. In Mumbai, there were floods some year back because of the plastic bags had choked the drains, and so it leads to huge floods and all. So this thing has to be kept in mind. If at all it has to be used, there should be waste segregation, so that plastic etc. is not disposed in the drains and all. And then, friends, before the disaster, we have to identify. Police has to identify. Police and municipal authorities have to. We do identify before the monsoons that what are the vulnerable buildings and what are the shelter houses. Even before, just a few months ago, we did the exercise in connection with the Yas cyclone was there in Kolkata. It was about to come, so we had done all these exercises, and then we have made plans. We have identified the vulnerable buildings. We had shifted marked temporary shelters, so that if need be, people can be shifted to those buildings. So these are the few suggestions that I can give. It's already there in the book, friends.
Right, sir. And those were the questions, sir. There are one or two more important questions that if you could answer those. Students have asked that could you give some tips about maths optional?
Friend, maths was my optional. To the student who has asked this question, maths was my optional. And in maths, the only tip that I can give you is you need to do a lot of practice. In fact, you will have to. In fact, I had to. If I tell you frankly, I had spent about in my last attempt. I had spent about 60% of my time in maths, and 20% in GS, and 20% in geography, and I got the highest marks in geography amongst my own 3 marks. And then the next marks, I got relatively less marks in maths. Still, it was enough to clear the cutoff. But the learning point is that maths requires a lot of practice. You need to study those to practice from your hand. Do not just read the book and keep it. You have to see. You have to do those proofs multiple times and division, and that's the thing, friend. Practice. There's no other way to tackle maths except to practice and practice immensely.
Right, sir. So this is for all viewers that for the internal security and disaster management title, you can log on to Amazon and Flipkart and you can get your copy. And it is a wonderful read. And for the aspirants, it covers a lot of areas which you will not be able to find in regular newspapers. So nothing is untouched in this book. No area is untouched. Everything is covered end to end. So please go and get your copy from Amazon and Flipkart.
And Sahil, I think last night you mentioned that there was some discount today, especially for today, as you had said.
Yes, sir. There is a discount running on Amazon for the aspirants, and it is on a special discount. The students can quickly go and grab their book before the discount runs out.
So, friends, it was a pleasure. It was wonderful speaking with all of you, and I'm so delighted that I'm speaking to my young friends and sharing some tips. I hope some of my effort will be of use to many of you, and some of you will benefit with some of the advice that I have given. And should you need any further query to me, you can. My email address is given inside the just in the preface of my book, so you can mail me the queries, and I will try to answer to the best of my abilities. Friends, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for taking out time and delivering this session to the aspirants. And we look forward to seeing you again in another session. Thank you so much.
Thanks to Oxford University Press's team, and thank you once again, aspirants. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.